it's a bit of a yin and a yang kind of a thing. Some people like it, some people don't. I think there is a place for it in our sport, and I think it's identifying strengths and weaknesses. The things that I like getting out of it, if someone just give me a page of all the stats in front of me, that does nothing for me. I just look at it, but if people break it down and say, right, Joe, your forehand draw been pretty good all day, your backhand draw you're missing a lot narrow. Your forehand drives are great, your backhand runs are good. There's two things that have come out of today's game. One, your backhand draw, constantly a bit narrow, so I think maybe just open up a little bit. So it's learning about where you're going wrong and trying to fix those things. But you almost need to, and I've talked about it a bit, at the end of the day, almost have a quick thing through your coding and go out and have a quarter of an hour practice at the end of every day's bowls, like if your world bowls or com games or whatever, just so that you get those things right leading into the next day play. The golfers do it. They finish a round of golf, they go out on the practice greens or whatever, fairways and practice the things that possibly didn't go so good. And I think it just puts to bed a few of the negatives before you go out the next day. It's, I don't know, play around with.
I think it's useful in raising people's awareness. Most people have pretty rose-tinted glasses when it comes to how well they think they perform. And if you, I always do this when I'm running a coaching session, ask people what sort of numbers they think they should be producing, and they think the blackjack should be producing like 80%. And it's kind of like, okay, right, yeah. If you go out there, and what happens to those people, they go out there and they decide they measure themselves in training and they get 30% and they go, they find all sorts of excuses why that can't possibly be true. But that's the reality. And the thing is, it's actually not the hard numbers that are important, it's the trends and the relationships between them. And, like, for example, let's have some real evidence that, like your third bowl in singles, that's short. It's short because so just make sure you've played it before you follow it.
It's just awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. And when I was rink coaching, I kind of found that useful just because I had some sort of factual evidence for what I was wanting to talk to people about, and I could sort of actually show them rather than it just being something that I was saying. More to just raise people's awareness.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, stats don't win your games.
No.
Especially in our game, you can be absolutely smashing someone on stats and lose a game completely. Yep. So it's how you use the stats that you've got for getting better yourself. Right?
Yeah.